Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. If you're noticing more ticks this summer, you're not alone. As weather patterns shift due to climate change, tick populations are expected to increase in New England. We spoke with UVM Extension's entomologist Margaret Skinner to find out why tick populations are on the rise and what you can do to protect yourself from these pests.
The thing about dog ticks is it's all related to the different hosts that they feed on besides humans or dogs. They're feeding on rodents, etc. And so when the populations of rodents increase, then that gives them more opportunity, the ticks more food to feed on. And then I think in general, our winter was pretty mild. And I think that was good for the gypsy moth and for the eggs, but it was also good for the ticks. The same thing that you spray to repel mosquitoes works for ticks. And I don't necessarily like spraying DEET-based products on my skin, but if I'm going out into the woods or where I think there are going to be a lot of ticks, I make sure that I spray my clothes. I put my socks over my pants and spray the socks, spray the shoes or the boots, so that when they start crawling up, they will be repelled. But it needs to be a DEET-based product. I know there's lots of other natural products available. All the evidence that I've read is that it just isn't that effective. There are so many factors that influence why we're getting more ticks. And some of it is a habitat thing, because the more sort of wild, hedgerowy things we have, that's great for the rodents. The more the rodents survive, the more ticks we have. And we are having milder winters in general, even though I know it gets really cold sometimes, but not the bone-chilling cold that I remember when I was young.
For more information on ticks, visit the UVM entomology website at go.uvm.edu/ticks. There you'll find resources, research, and even a tick tracking app to download. The weather is always on the mind of farmers. A few years ago, we reported on a research project that uses wood chips instead of concrete and gravel in barnyard construction. It's an effort to counter climate change and protect natural resources. The chips absorb runoff, which improves water quality while also improving animal comfort. Rebecca Gollin tells us more.
It's about 120 foot per head.
Joshua Faulkner is sharing something new with Vermonters.
And today we're inviting farmers, service providers, just curious local folks. There's some folks from the watershed group here today, and we just really want to show off the practice and let folks kind of poke around.
Faulkner is the Farming and Climate Change Program Coordinator at UVM Extension's Center for Sustainable Agriculture. The big idea he's showing off is a new way to manage cattle during Vermont's long winters.
It's essentially a barnyard that's made out of wood chips.
It's a little more complicated, but the gist of it is that farmers use a thick layer of wood chips instead of the gravel or concrete that are the norm in heavy-use areas. When farmer Doug Kenyon was looking for options, he teamed up with Faulkner and UVM Extension to try something different. That turned out to be Vermont's first wood chip pad.
I was apprehensive at first, quite a bit, but we need to do something to start complying with the regulations that are coming down.
Faulkner first worked with this type of system in West Virginia and thought it would be a good fit for some Vermont operations. Having this one here in Waitsfield, adjacent to the Mad River, has given him the chance to do the water quality testing and environmental monitoring that will determine if the model is viable for others. So far, he's been impressed with the results.
It's pretty innovative. This is only the third one of these that's been built in the United States, so it's pretty new. It's a different way of thinking about barnyards. It's a different way of thinking about wintertime cattle management. So it's new. It can be used in beef systems. It can be used in dairy systems.
Beverly McMullen came to see this setup in action. She's interested in whether this approach could work on horse farms.
I thought that perhaps there would be some application for horse farming of this system that has been designed and built here at Kenyon's farm to alleviate mud and in high traffic areas, particularly in the spring, on horse farms, because that has been a problem in the past.
McMullen thinks the practice has potential, and as a member of the Vermont Horse Council, as well as the Vermont Farm Bureau, she plans to share the information with her networks. Across the fences, Keith Silva caught up with Faulkner and Kenyon shortly after the wood pad was installed in 2016.
We want to see how these perform in these really cold winters that we have here in Vermont. So we're still learning, but by all accounts, it's 5 degrees today, and things look like they're working really well. So we're optimistic.
The cows are standing on about 12 inches of wood chips. Below that is a layer of drainage stone and piping that flows out to a nearby drainage pond. When the animals go back on pasture in the spring, the top 3 inches of wood chips will get scraped off, composted, and used as fertilizer on Kenyon's fields. Another environmental benefit is how well wood chips handle water.
When you think about concrete, most of the rainfall that falls on the concrete with the manure runs off. You got to deal with that water. You have to handle that water in a responsible way. When it rains on the wood chip pads, those wood chips soak up a lot of that water, and then they re-evaporate it, and they kind of act like a sponge. I've done some research on a couple of pads, and we've seen a reduction in runoff of about 50%. So that's 50% less dirty water that you have to deal with. And I think that's a real advantage when you think about the infrastructure you need, whether it's a holding pond or some sort of treatment system, pumping and spreading, of how much money, time, and labor you have to put into dealing with that dirty water. And of course, less dirty water you have, the less risk you have of potentially polluting.
Kenyon's decision to install a wood chip pad aligns with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture's new required agricultural practices to limit runoff and improve water quality.
We all are going to have to come into compliance with runoff into the water systems, and this is supposed to help mitigate that, and hopefully it does. It's a step in the right direction. I like the idea of this system better than the alternative that I was offered.
Now that it's been close to a year, Kenyon has more to say.
The cows are more comfortable. I don't have to lock them in a tight area, which I won't do, and they were comfortable all winter. It worked. I'm impressed with it. I really am. If we can do another one someday for the brood cows, I would do that too. It just makes a lot of sense. A lot less labor, a lot less mess, a lot less everything.
The quality of the water really shows how well we're taking care of the land, and we really care about taking care of the land so that we can see that we're doing a good job in the water.
As executive director of the Friends of the Mad River, Corey Miller is keeping an eye on how things are going here.
Doug's trying something new, and it's exciting, and it seems to be a win for the animals and for the environment at the same time, and that's exciting. And I think it's something to see how it goes, and if it's possible that other farmers might be interested, that could be really neat.
Miller is looking forward to getting more information on the long-term and economic implications of using the system.
Economically, I'd be interested to know how much it's going to cost, and if it's something that's sustainable over time, or if it's too much of a burden to the farmers. I'm intrigued by the long-term maintenance costs, and if it's worth, if the additional costs are worth the reduced labor, it could be an exciting thing.
Another economic boost could be for Vermont's timber industry in producing the wood chips. That possibility brought UVM Extension's Chris Lindgren, who focuses on forest product businesses.
Mainly curious about the application of using wood chips, which is a forest product, and wider use of wood chips.
Lindgren, too, is reserving judgment until the data is in.
Well, right now I'm really thinking about costs on both sides. How it could help loggers who are businesses selling wood chips. Could it help them keep their businesses, grow their businesses? And then the cost, is it the right cost that people are going to adopt the practice so that it'll be widely utilized, and then what are the sort of maintenance costs, and then the maintenance, again, on the selling side, how much maintenance do they need of wood chips, as far as, again, another market for loggers.
Faulkner hopes that by seeing these new practices in action, the farmers and industry representatives here will help spread the word. The wood chips aren't suitable for every operation, but Faulkner believes it could be just right for some.
I think this could work on a lot of farms in Vermont. You're always constrained with some engineering practices by the site. You know, if there's shallow bedrock or high water tables, things like that. I mean, there are going to be those situations. But really, you know, I think it can work on a lot of farms, and especially some of our smaller farms and some of the medium-sized farms. I think it's a really good fit for that. It's a Vermont, I've said this before, it's a Vermont scale practice.
As for Doug Kenyon, he has some advice for farmers who are interested.
If they could put one together and it helps the environment like they're asking us to, then try to figure out how to do it and get an engineer to help you design it with the soil that's available and the amount of animals you want to keep. Look into it at least.
Bringing Vermont-sized solutions to Vermont businesses and helping farmers think outside the box. In Waitsfield, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
And that's our program for today. Thank you for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.